I wanted to react to as my next little segment on stream. You know, I saw this tweet the other day and I thought this tweet was so fucking good. I thought this tweet was like, okay, so there's like 3 levels of, well, there's more than 3, but there's 3 levels of tweets that I read. There's tweets that I read and I'm like, this is stupid or wrong, or it's just a bad tweet, right? And then there's tweets where I read them and they're average. They're an average tweet. It's an average tweet, right? They don't necessarily teach me anything I didn't know, but they're not bad tweets. They're not wrong. And then there's tweets that are so good. Well, okay, the third level, I guess, is there's tweets that are good, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I knew that, but I like the way you worded it. And then the hidden 4th level, there are tweets that are so good, they almost unearth something about the nature of, you know, reality to me, right? There's tweets where I read them and I'm like, oh my God. 1, I think you're right. And 2, the tweets are making me think at like a deep level. You know what I mean? It's like making me learn and I had this, it's not even just that the tweet itself teaches me something. Like, yeah, okay, you can write something in a tweet that I didn't know and then I learned something. No, it's that a tweet is so profound that it actually sends me into a state of introspection, right? Like, I'm like, wow. I start even unearthing things that weren't written in the tweet, okay? And Pipsqueak did this. Famous Swedish fox Pipsqueak did this, and he wrote a tweet that I really quite liked. I thought this tweet was really good. It was so good that I felt like I needed to talk about it on stream. Don't play characters. Don't play, especially new games. This is especially pertinent to new games. Don't play characters whose discourse revolves around how much potential they have. If they really have potential, people would be talking about how omega busted they are. I think this is so true. Anytime, it's especially relevant with like all these new games that are coming out, Nick All-Star Brawl, Melty Blood, Guilty Gear Strive, right? Anytime, if you're trying to pick a main, okay, if you're just trying to pick a character that like, you know, you just like that character, yeah, play whatever the fuck you want, right? But if you're trying to play a good character, let me tell you, do not pick a character where people go, bro, no, this character's got so much potential. They got so much potential. This character could be so good. This character's got so much potential, bro. If they were good, people would be complaining. I promise you, people would be complaining if the character was actually good. And let me tell you, I dug up some tweets of characters that I think I've tried to main where I felt this heavy. Excellent example right here. You guys remember this era? Remember this era? Tweak was one of the characters, or one of the players that was really big on Inkling. When I played Smash Ultimate, I was an Inkling main. And don't get me wrong, I think Tweak is incredibly smart when it comes to Ultimate. I definitely think Tweak, like, in general, probably just one of the greatest minds of Ultimate for sure. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, rest in peace, Inkling. Hella confirms ways to rack up percent edge guarding. I think as the game developed, I think people learned things about why the edge guarding thing was a bit of a fallacy. Even Inkling's edgeguard. I actually don't think Inkling's edgeguard is very good. You can always judge, not always, don't get me wrong. There's always exceptions to every rule. There's exceptions to every rule. You can generally judge character strength by the reactions people have to fighting those characters. And when people say like, man, I don't know, I just think this character's got a ton of potential, that's usually a bad sign. And that was what people were saying this about Inkling for a long time. No, I just feel like this character's got a lot of potential. They're going to move up the tier list. Like, people are going to figure out how to really, you know, make this character, you know, once they hit their very precise, for, you know, in all these matchups where Inkling has a 1%, I'll give you a specific example on the Inkling, in the Inkling case here. You know, people would say, well, once Inkling hits those exact percent ranges, you know, because in the Fox matchup, for example, up throw upper only kills at exactly 99% if you get the up throw exactly 99%. I might be wrong here. I used to have a spreadsheet with every kill confirmed percent. In some matchups, it's an exact 1% window. And so people said, don't worry, the Inklings are going to lab this out, and they're going to start hitting those up throw up airs in every matchup. You know what actually happened? People caught wise to what percent their character dies, and if they were at exactly 99%, they would just jump around and they would just get hit by a bear. I think that's a common, you know, to dig into a little bit why I think this is the case, that characters with so much potential actually end up, in my opinion, very often getting worse over time and not better. I think people assume a lot of things about these types of characters. They feel like there's a lot of tech and there's a lot of, you know, interesting stuff they can do, but they never think about the counterplay. And this Inkling example is a perfect example where people forgot about the counterplay. People didn't think about how other people will learn. I can just jump around and get hit by a random bear so that you cannot throw up air me anymore. A great example of this happening right now is everybody who tries to tweet at me. Yes, I appreciate all of your tweets. All of you that send me videos of your Toph setups. All of you saying, don't give up on Toph, man. I'm telling you, she's got some shit. She's got some crazy setups, bro. She's got so much potential. I think the overarching thing I see, and this is how I'm really going to kind of qualify for this for you guys. When people talk about characters that have a lot of potential, please think of it in terms of what the possible counterplay is. People love to ignore the counterplay. Do Ices have potential? Ices are a classic character with potential, I think. People used to talk about, dude, Ices, theoretically, they're the most technical and the most high, you know what I mean? They theoretically, with desyncs, people used to say this, with desyncs, they could even be the best character in neutral, right? Because you have two characters that are both doing things. So with desyncs, you can do two neutral options at the speed at which everyone else is doing one neutral option. Like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, I guess mathematically, if you literally multiply by 2, you're not taking, but again, you're not taking into account, people used to say this, but you're not taking into account, like, you need to react to what your opponent's doing. You don't suddenly get more processing power on determining what your opponent's doing because you're controlling two characters. If anything, you have to make your decisions further in advance if you're relying on desyncs to be the best character in neutral. You know what I mean? So, this is like Smashboard Zero logic. Yeah, 2 is greater than 1, duh. So they're theoretically the best character thing. It's like, dude, you know what I mean? Mewtwo's a good example, too. This is the classic Mewtwo story. You know about the Mewtwo story? The Mewtwo story goes, like, the way Mewtwo put himself on the map on Smashboards was Mewtwo set out to make, you know, this comprehensive frame data list because Mewtwo wanted to prove that Mewtwo was, like, the best character. He's like, bro, trust me, like, this was 2005 Mewtwo. He's like, Mewtwo has so much potential, bro. I'm going to prove that Mewtwo's got hella potential. This character, you know, seems like they could be incredibly deep and, you know, they might have all this crazy stuff, right? And, I mean, you guys know what ended up happening to Mewtwo the more we learned about the game. Mewtwo King himself, I think he said this in, like, the documentary or something even. If I'm not mistaken, he literally said in the documentary, he, like, you know, I wanted to put together this frame data to show everybody that Mewtwo is actually the character that might be really hidden strong. Mewtwo might be an incredibly strong character, and he learned all about the frame data in Melee, and he looked at the frame data of every character, and he had to draw the conclusion from that he's like, you know what, Mewtwo actually sucks. That's what I learned. But on the bright side, I learned a lot about frame data in Melee, and now I've got a sick-ass Marth and Fox. Well, Fox first, so. I think there's an interesting question with Fox. I'm glad that I'm glad that y'all brought up Fox, because, like, with Fox definitely had the makings of this early on, right? Because you got to remember, like, on the first tier list, you know, Sheik was #1. But very early on, people were putting Fox as #1 on the tier list for, like, they put Fox on as #1 on the tier list even when he wasn't necessarily winning majors and nobody was playing him at a top level. And when I say top level, I mean tourney winning level, right? I think a couple things happened there. I think one, first of all, they didn't overrate Fox at first. He literally wasn't #1 on the first tier list. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think Fox has options at every level of play. And I think early on, the way they talked about Fox, like the stuff that Fox brought to the table early on, things like up throw, up air, shine spikes, like those weren't technical. Those were usable and abusable instantly off the bat, right? I think that stuff propelled Fox to the top of the tier list, if not literally the #1 spot, before people started talking about Fox the way that frame data nerds were like, oh, you know, the multi-shine this, shine grab that. Like, Fox was already considered so good at a very, very practical level before they even got into any of that stuff. And I think the way people talked about Fox, I don't think Fox ever had he never had the thing people do where they talk about your potential as a character in a vacuum without considering counterplay. He never had that. They never talked about him in that way. Fox was never like, no, trust me, but like everything they talked about with Fox, it was never in this vacuum where they propped him up and they showed off setups and training mode that were very esoteric that would never come to fruition in reality. You know what I mean? There was never any of that kind of dialogue around the character. And so that's what I think kind of differentiated him. And he never needed elaborate kill setups. When people talk about characters with potential, you got to be very careful when you hear high potential, because people always, the number, you're sure thing, you're going to see setups where it's against a training mode dummy and they're not doing all the options. characters where, yeah, you need to like hit very precise, could be like percentage kill windows in a game like Smash Ultimate or Smash Brothers period. You know, you need to hit this thing. Powdered Toast Man, I'm feeling this right now with Powdered Toast Man, as a matter of fact. Where like, I even kind of feel like Powdered Toast Man has potential with like the Shine Strong Up Air stuff. I'm like, bro, I can Shine Strong Up Air you and kill you at 15%. And then they patch the game and they buff DI, and I'm like, dude, I don't think my combo even works anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like when you see all the hallmarks of like, literally even the way I've been playing Powdered Toast Man on stream, where I go into training mode and I do these setups that work against players that miss their DI, and then I go on a ladder and everyone just DIs out of the shine. It's the same way. I'm literally, it's like I'm part of the problem practically. Let me tell you, Powdered Toast Man is it's potential Toast Man. I'm just gonna call it potential Toast Man from now on. To wrap this thought up, let me tell you, the next time you're playing a new video game and someone says, you know, this character is potential, that character is potential, just consider the counterplay. Consider the counterplay, because let me tell you, people will, people say all kinds of shit. And if you have a little bit of a vibe, if you get a sense like, man, if you pick up a character and you feel like you have to work harder than you feel like you want to, let's say you want to. I mean, some people just like to play characters. That's fine, right? But if you're playing a character and you feel like you're working harder than you think you should be, and it feels like some of the other characters in the game got some bullshit. Dude, I remember fighting Rob. I remember fighting Rob with Inkling. People were telling me, you know, my character's top tier, Rob's like mid tier or whatever. Rob's not that good. I remember fighting Rob. I was like, dude, I don't know, man. This feels really fucking hard. I don't know, dog. They're like, no, your character probably beats Rob. You could like edge guard and up throw up air. I'm like, no, dog. I don't know, man. He down tilts me across the stage and then he side beats me and kills me at 40.